The Pro Stockers now will come wheeling around the corner. Arlen Banky of Akron, Ohio, in a Plymouth Duster, running against Herb McCandless of Burlington, North Carolina. He is in the Soxon Martin Duster right here. Both these men have been absolutely superb so far. Their starts have been impeccable. Their equipment is at a peak. This could be one of the quickest Pro Stock races you have ever seen. Arlen Banky won here in 1968 at the Nationals, winning the Super Stock Championship. But this Pro Stock category is a little hotter. Red, white, and blue is McCandless. Banky's on the far side. Pro Stock title on the line right now. They're shifting all the way through, and it is close. And it's McCandless the winner. 9.981 seconds. And hear this, Banky, 9.983 seconds, and both men get 138.03 miles an hour for their top speed. And let's take another look. The top speed is measured in the last 66 feet at the very end of the course, and you can see McCandless won it by the smallest of margins.
Pomona Raceway. Nope, it's Pro Stock, Tom. And here is a rematch from last year. Soxon Martin's Plymouth Barracuda from Burlington, North Carolina. And
hey, Rob, can you bring that audio up for us?
The Chevrolet fans' favorite of Berwyn, Pennsylvania. These two men faced each other for the title last year, and Jenkins won it. That was the last.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not getting any audio on these at the moment.
Didn't win. They've won everything since. Grumpy Jenkins is known because of his real dedication more than anything else. You can't really talk to Bill in the pit area. He's very intent on what he's
As
doing.
this clip's not giving us audio at the moment, we can talk to you as it's going, but you can clearly see Ronnie Sox on the far side of the racetrack.
Okay, and here we see the tree in the right-hand portion of the
Great,
tree.
okay.
We see the Pro start and the two cars leave. A beautiful start. Jenkins may have been out first, but Sox might have let him get away, knowing he can drive around him, and he does. Ronnie Sox. 9:89 the elapsed time for Sox. It's going to take a mechanical failure to beat him. Okay, here is a replay of it. Another Pro Stock race. The action fast and furious, and from this vantage point, it's very difficult to get a hold of them sometime. In the left-hand lane, Akron Arlen Banky from Akron, Ohio. Here in the tower lane, a Plymouth Barracuda to challenge him. Banky is due for a major NHRA event win. He's been runner-up at 2 championships in 1970.
He's got a race on his hands here.
But he pulls it out. Arlen Banky moving into the semifinals. Dick Landy in the tower lane. In the far lane is Wally Booth in a Chevrolet. Booth from Ohio, Landy from Northridge, California. The Chevrolet fans are on their feet. The Chrysler Corporation products have been ruling Pro Stock, but look at this, and they'll cheer for this one. Wally Booth. The crowd goes nuts. Wally Booth, the most successful Chevrolet here at the Winter Nationals thus far. 9:92, and here it is again. Wally Booth and Dick Landy, Booth in the far lane, and he's pulling away inch by inch. A full car length lead, and across the finish line. Wally Booth moving into the semifinals.
And here's Arlen Banky of Akron, Ohio. He'll be in the far lane in yellow. He's facing Don Grothier in this red, white, and blue car from Oklahoma City, a former champion here. Here we go. There's the yellow and the green, and they're off. A good start, tight race. That's Banky in yellow. Grothier on the inside. Grothier is pulling up, and Grothier is just going to make it. The time for Grothier, 9.79, 141.00 miles per hour. Bill Grumpy Jenkins in white against Don Carthen of Royal Oaks in the black car there. This is the other semifinal. Bill, a former champion here in a light car with a small V8. They're all set to go. There's the start. They're off. A beautiful start by Bill Jenkins. Carthen's coming after him. Looks like Jenkins all the way. And he's the winner, 9.70, 140.62 miles per hour. So it's Jenkins and Grothier in the final rounds of the Pro Stock.
Round as we come to the last pair in this quarterfinal round. Lane 1, George Balhan, Hazel Crest, Illinois. King Speed Shop sponsored 73, Vega. This one, Balhan, Holger, and Tilley maintained is very tough. They qualified number 2 at 9:53, 1:47.
In the Tower Lane, the shotgun of the Super Pro Stock drivers, Jerry Krasinski and Jerry and Jean's Pit Stop Gang Camaro. The old Bonnie and Clyde team qualifying in at 971, 146 miles per hour.
And in this quarterfinal round, if one race had to be considered fairly even because of the move by one of the two competitors on the light, I would say it would have to be this one. Krasinski Tower Lane, even though he's almost 2/10 behind Balhan in time, can definitely make it up. Jerry is really good on the light, and George will have all he can handle on this run.
As you said, Billy, 2/10 is one good car length out of the gate, and we've seen Jerry Krasinski time after time do that, pull that one car length gate job out of the gate, put the favored competitor out. Let's see if he can do it again this time. Balhan looks as though he is cocked in the staging gate, Billy, and Jerry Krasinski looks like he's flat in the groove.
Krasinski Tower Lane slowly coming up. He doesn't want much of that blue light. If you don't think he's not going for it, you are mistaken. He's going to shoot the lights, and here he comes, and Krasinski makes the move. He's out there half a car length and moving well. Lane number 1, George Balhan pushing top end. He's going to have a tough time, and it is lane number 1. What a run. Balhan had to really go on the top end to get around him. 9:54 for George Balhan. 9:54, 1:49, but wait till you hear the time on Krasinski Tower Lane.
Jerry Krasinski with his best run of the year, Billy, a 9:67, 145 miles per hour.
Now let's move to Pro Stock and round 1. First matchup, Bob Glidden of Greenwood, Indiana in a 73 Pinto against Wayne Gap of Birmingham, Michigan. He'll be in the left lane in a 73 Pinto.
Pro Stock of Ted is the battle of the super hot cars similar to what you see on the street. These are, in this case, Gap and Roush bringing their 74 Mustang to this event. In the right-hand lane, the man that won the Pro Stock title at the Nationals a year ago at Indianapolis Raceway Park, Bob Glidden in the Pinto. These cars are powered by engines using only gasoline. Here's the world champion Wayne Gap. Using only gasoline, they are limited to 2 4-barrel carburetors and considerable chassis modifications to allow them to run elapsed times in the high 8s and low 9s, speeds over 150.
An extremely close race. Bob Glidden 9:18, Wayne Gap a 9.29.
Here's the car of Billy Stepp from Dayton, Ohio. Bobby Ewell doing the driving. Reed Wisnett from Atlanta, Georgia, will be lining up in the left-hand lane. Wisnett making his burnout here. Much shorter than the Top Fuel Funny Car burnouts. All they're trying to do is heat up the tires, provide the traction. There's the concentration on the face of Bobby Ewell. And the acceleration as these cars leave the starting line.
Extremely close race at this point, and it's going to be Bobby Ewell, a time of 9.06 to 9.27, and a speed of 145 miles an hour, the winning speed. Dave Canners of Troy, Michigan, a 74 Hornet. He'll be in the right lane. Kelly Chadwick of Amarillo, Texas, a 74 Vega. He'll be in the left lane.
This car is powered by different sized engines. You will find the hemispherical combustion chamber engine in the Chrysler product cars, the small block Chevrolet in the Chevy Vega. Maskin and Canners using a small block engine in the Hornets. They are varied by weight to allow them to compete on an even basis.
At the line, extremely close, 9.23 the winning time, 9:31 for Chadwick, a losing effort, and there is the margin of victory, less than a half a car length.
We talk about an even basis, that's what it's all about.
Roy Hill of High Point, North Carolina in a 73 Duster. Kelly Hahn of Tampa, Florida in the left lane in a 74 Duster.
The cars are paired in the first round, Ted, by the way they qualified. Some 30 pro stockers were entered for this event, over 30 of them, and they qualified both Friday and Saturday, leading up to today's finals. And the 16 quickest go into the final eliminations, and we're seeing them right now in the first round of eliminations. Roy Hill from High Point, North Carolina on an easy race here. Some problems obviously for Kenny Hahn. 9:26 the time for Hill at 149 miles an hour. Here's Sonny Bryant out of Orange, California. He's driving the Camaro. And you saw and heard a backfire there, and apparently maybe some problems. This is Scott Shafarov from New York. Shafarov nodding that he will get a single run as Sonny Bryant with problems. You saw it backfire right there after the burnout, and a tough break for him.
Scott Shafarov just cruising down the strip at a 9.25, and Sonny Bryant's car being pushed away from the starting line. Could have been any one of a number of things caused the problem.
Certainly could. Here we have another example of the Camaro. Now these use the 427 cubic inch engines, or the big blocks as they're known as, and again must carry more weight than their competitors such as this Hornet, the AMC Hornet of Wally Booth. Two cars making up the American Motors Racing Team, the factory-backed team. Wally Booth winning the Gator Nationals back in March. First time ever for an American Motors car into the winner's circle in Pro Stock Eliminator.
Let's talk about what they're using for burnouts. Water or bleach? Or...
Up until about this time a year ago, the racers could use any type of compound they wanted. Liquid, rubber, bleach, you name it, and it was used at a racetrack. But recently, the innovations in tires and also the improvements in traction compounds that are applied to the strips, it's become necessary to hold everybody to use just water, and the water is provided by the racetrack. It's poured under the tires just to allow the tires to get an easy start.
We've got a race on our hands in this one.
We sure do. Richie Zool trying his best. 9:15 the winning time for Wally Booth, a 9:26 for Zool, and it was very close in the lights. The American Motors Hornet using the small block engine, the big block rat-motored Chevrolet of Richie Zool. We'll just see how close right here. Let's watch.
11 hundredths of a second separating the winning and losing effort there.
1,320 feet is the length of a racetrack at a drag strip. 1/4 of a mile, and you can see less than a car length separating them after a heads-up start.
In the right lane, Ken Dondero of Malvern, Pennsylvania in a 74 Vega. Jim Holleran of Hillside, Illinois in the left lane, a 74 Maverick.
And here's the story behind this race, this matchup, is the 74 Vega, the Grumpy's toy, normally driven by Bill Jenkins. But Jenkins relinquishing the driver's seat for this event to Ken Dondero. And you see Bill Jenkins right there acting as crew chief for this race, looking on. Here's the concentration on the face of Dondero. They still got Bill Jenkins' name on the side of the car.
We have pre-staged, and we are staged, and the tree goes green.
On one side of the tree, the left lane leaving a big red light for Jim Halloran. You saw him there. He knew that he had to take a chance at getting a hole shot. 9:15 the winning time, 9:34 with a red light, and losing automatically at the starting line was Jim Halloran. You can see how much earlier he left there on the slow motion shot over Ken Dondero.
And he got a traffic ticket. Joe Satmary of Hammond, Indiana will be in the left lane in the 73 Camaro.
Sam Giannino from Royal Oak, Michigan in the 74 Vega. And here's a perfect example of the small car, small engine, big car, big engine that is in Pro Stock today. Giannino using the 330 cubic inch engine, and a tremendous start for Satmary in the big block 427 type Camaro.
Joe Satmary, the winner, a time of 9.31, 9:52 the losing effort, 147 miles an hour for the winning
Bob
speed.
Glidden on the far side. He is matched up against the Ford Pinto of Lee Hunter. Both Pintos off the starting line together. Bob Glidden, the defending world champ, got back in on a big break when his competition in round number 1 was found to be light after Glidden red-lighted away his chance for a win. Very close at the finish line, you can see just a little over a wheel width separating the two cars as they move across the finish line. It's Wayne Gap matched up against Stacy Shields in the second race of this round. In other action in this round, Larry Huff defeated Jack Shore. Bill Jenkins topping Richie Zool. Stacy Shields, one of the few black drivers in drag racing from Indianapolis, Indiana. He's driving the Superfly Mustang. Wayne Gap from Livonia, Michigan, at the wheel of the four-door Maverick. Here you see the Christmas tree. Both cars stayed. They believe. Smoke coming out of Wayne Gap's car, and Stacy Shields pulling ahead, and what an upset here as Wayne Gap, the favorite, coming into the race with a big lead, loses as obviously a motor going away. Wayne Gap coasting across the finish line. Stacy Shields with the upset win.
Pro Stock Eliminator picking up the action in the second round. Here is Richie Zool from Lindenhurst, Long Island, New York. His competition from Fridley, Minnesota, Warren Johnson, both drivers. The wheel of the big block Camaros, and a close race. At the finish line, it is Warren Johnson, 8.78 seconds. Speed over 156 miles an hour. The losing time, 8.83. These are the most sophisticated, full-bodied, stock car type drag racing vehicles in the world. Dave Canners in the far lane. He's driving the American Motors Hornet, matched up against High Point, North Carolina's Roy Hill. Canners hailing from Troy, Michigan. The start, all important in this category as it is in all classes of drag racing. Roy Hill in the near lane, Dave Canners in the far lane. Let's watch and see if you can determine who leaves the starting line first. Dave Canners, it appears, out first on Roy Hill. At the finish line, it's going to be very close. Dave Canners by just about a wheel length, recording an 8.88 second elapsed time. The losing time by Roy Hill was an 8.84. So that means that Dave Canners did lead the starting line first, as each lane of the racetrack has its own separate timing equipment, and that's how close it was at the finish. Here is the Monza of Bill Grumpy Jenkins, driven by Larry Lombardo of Malvern, Pennsylvania. His competition, another Monza, Shelby Jester from Abilene, Texas. The Monzas using the smaller Chevrolet engines than their Camaro counterparts. A red light start for Shelby Jester gives the win automatically to Larry Lombardo, but he's not backing out of it. Neither is Jester. 8.81 seconds, the winning time for Larry Lombardo. The final race in round number 2 action in Pro Stock Eliminator in the near lane from Calverton, Virginia, the big block Camaro of Lee Edwards. In the far lane, the world champion, defending world champ Bob Glidden from Beech Grove, Indiana, driving the Pinto. Another tremendously close race. It's Bob Glidden there first, 8.87 seconds at 154.63 miles an hour. 16 cars have qualified for Pro Stock Eliminator, and Carl Hobson of Baltimore, Maryland drives the Chevrolet Camaro. His competition, Andy Manarino in the American Motors Hornet, and a red light for Carl Hobson gives the win automatically to Andy Manarino. Manarino's time, 8.77 seconds. His speed, 154 miles an hour for the Hornet. Next pair, Ronnie Manchester out of Westport, Massachusetts. Manchester driving a 77 Chevy Monza. Bob Gardner, his competition from Springfield, Virginia, in a 77 Mustang. Buster Couch indicating into the staging beam for Bob Gardner. They leave the line together, front wheels bouncing off the ground for Ronnie Manchester. Manchester, the winner, 8.80 seconds, 155 miles an hour at the end of a quarter mile. Here's Warren Johnson. Steve told you earlier, Warren Johnson ran off the track in qualifying. You see the patchwork done to the right front fender to repair the body damage to get him back into competition. Former world champion Bob Glidden, his competition in a 77 Pinto. Both cars approaching the staging beams, the classic Ford versus Chevrolet, and leaving the line together. Glidden with the front wheels high in the air, drifting close to the edge of the track. He keeps it down the straight and narrow though, and Glidden the easy winner. A fine 8.68 seconds. His speed 156 miles an hour. Let's take a look in slow motion, the last portion of the quarter mile. Glidden about a car length and a half, 2 car lengths ahead of Warren Johnson at the finish line. Here is Alban Gauthier of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, driving a 1976 Plymouth Duster in this first round of Pro Stock racing. The Chevrolet Monza driven by Richie Zool. Zuhl, formerly campaigning his own car out of the New York City area, now driving for Rare and Morrison from Arlington, Texas. The Chevrolet Monza and the Plymouth Duster approaching the starting line, waiting for the green light to leave the line together. The Chevy Monza pulling an early lead and extending that lead, it appears, as he continues through the quarter mile. Richie Zuhl, the winner, his elapsed time 8.75 seconds, his speed 154 miles an hour. Here in slow motion you see Zuhl with a big lead as he crosses the finish line. Let's go down now to the starting line for some observations from Steve.
Dave, here at the midway point in Pro Stock, there's no upsets, but running very true to form. All four winners were the quicker cars from qualifying. The crowd seems very partisan Chevrolet, so I'm going to get out of the way and let the action continue.
Here's another one of those favorite Chevrolets, Steve. This one, Joe Satmary's big block Camaro from Hammond, Indiana. But Satmary has his work cut out for him. This American Motors Hornet of Wally Booth has seen the winner's circle several times in NHRA national event competition. The Chevrolet versus the Hornet. Let's watch. A big hole shot by Joe Satmary. You saw him leave the starting line before Wally Booth. Can he hold on to the win? He does by just about a few inches. Joe Satmary, the winner over Wally Booth. His elapsed time, 8.78 seconds. His speed, 154 miles an hour. But the big story is Wally Booth. Though he lost the race, he went quicker, 8.62 seconds. His speed, 156. You see right there the amount of the difference for the winner, Joe Satmary in the Chevrolet, and the crowd loved that one. Dino Don Nicholson, recent winner of the Spring Nationals Championships, his Ford Mustang against Bob Ingalls of Ossining, New York, with the Chevrolet Monza. Bob Ingalls leading the line first, drifting somewhat close to the center line, but that powerful Ford Mustang pulls out the win. It's Dino Don Nicholson, 8.58 seconds, equaling the national record elapsed time. His speed, 157 miles an hour. Here, as we see them approaching the finish line, Nicholson has already pulled up and passed Bob Ingalls and carried it through for about a 3-foot win at the finish line. The world champion, Larry Lombardo, driving Bill Grumpy Jenkins' car from Malvern, Pennsylvania. It's a 77 Monza, matched against the 77 Plymouth Arrow of Roy Hill from Randleman, North Carolina. And the Monza with a big lead. The crowd favorite, Larry Lombardo, 8.62 seconds, a speed of 159 miles an hour, top speed of the meet thus far for Pro Stock. This is Don Campanello out of Wayne, New Jersey, his Chevy Monza, matched against a similar Monza, driven by Frank Iaconio of Totowa, New Jersey. Here in slow motion, you see the burnout done by all Pro Stockers. The purpose, to heat the big, wide racing slicks to get them as hot as possible, to provide as much traction as possible to put these cars through the quarter mile. A red light start for Don Campanello, giving the win automatically to Frank Iaconio. Though you see Campanello winning the race, it is Frank Iaconio, your winner, at 8.71 seconds, as the red light by Campanello automatically disqualified him. Pro Stock Racing, the factory hot rods, Joe Satmary against Randy Humphrey. Humphrey from Long Beach, California, Satmary out of Maryville, Indiana. Chevrolet versus Mopar. The RPM's climbing at the starting line, and a red light for Randy Humphrey. He knew he had to take a chance on the Christmas tree. And it was Joe Satmary with an easy win. 8.73 seconds elapsed time, 154 miles an hour. There's the red light indicating Randy Humphrey in the near lane, leaving too early. You can see it in the instant replay, just how it happened. The next pair in round number 2 racing in Pro Stock. The M&M boys, Maskin and Manarino, Andy Manarino doing the driving. Frank Iaconio from Totowa, New Jersey, in the far lane in the Chevy Monza. Iannarino from Livonia, Michigan drives an American Motors Hornet, but it's Iaconio on this run, 8.71 seconds at 155 miles an hour. A pair of Chevrolets slated to run in this race, but Richie Zool, the Spring Nationals champion, unable to answer the call. Lee Shepard out of Arlington, Texas, taking an easy win on a single, 8.70 seconds. His speed 150 miles an hour. Steve's in the pits with Richie Zool.
What happened, Richie?
Well, we had a tough first round, and in order to make it, we had to really lean on the motor and put a hole in one of the pistons.
The Ewell brothers Chevrolet in the near lane. Mark Ewell driving, Bob Glidden. And a red light start for Ewell. He knew he had to take a shot against the low qualifier. Bob Glidden with his new Ford Fairmont. And it's Glidden with the win, 8.60 seconds at 154 miles an hour. A red light for Ewell. An instant replay, he really left early before Glidden ever moved.
But the action right now is in Gainesville Raceway. On the starting line, the Pro Stocks, those factory hot rods. Here's Wally Booth, the American Motors Concord. Matched up with Booth is the Reno, Nevada team of the Ewell brothers and Ken Van Wert. Mark Ewell doing the driving. It's American Motors against Chevrolet in this first race of the second round of Pro Stock Eliminator. Patiently staging both cars into the staging leads, and a great lead by Mark Ewell. The big lead at the middle of the course, he extends it further as apparently Wally Booth has some problems. It's Mark Ewell there first, 8.74 seconds. His speed 153 miles an hour. Here in instant replay you saw is Wally Booth having problems. Mark Ewell taking the win. Don Campanello coming out of the smoke left from the burning tires after his burnout. He's racing Jim Canet in a Plymouth Volare. Canet's car powered by the Hemi engine. Campanello using a small block Chevrolet. The start, all important in drag racing. Both drivers concentrating on the Christmas tree, and a bit of a hole shot for Jim Canet. That means he got a little bit of advantage off the starting line over Don Campanello. But the finish line is where it matters, and Campanello got there first, 8.68 seconds. His speed 156 miles an hour. As the instant replay shows about a 1 car length advantage for Campanello. Ronnie Sox in the near lane. Larry Lombardo driving for Bill Jenkins in the far lane. A Dodge Omni-bodied car. Just eking out a win was Ronnie Sox, defeating Larry Lombardo. And at the finish line, 1/100th of a second separated the two cars, less than 3 feet. The world champion Bob Glidden's in the near lane in his Plymouth Arrow, and a red lighting Joe Satmary puts his Chevrolet Camaro out of competition. The win automatically going to Glidden. He still drives around Satmary. His elapsed time 8.55 seconds at 149 miles an hour.